Hi, I'm James Sykes, CEO, President, and Director of Baselode Energy Corp. We are a uranium exploration company in northern Saskatchewan, the Athabasca Basin area, which is home to the highest grades of uranium. However, we have a little bit of a different thesis on uranium exploration, that we're looking for near surface, open pitable uranium deposits in a jurisdiction that is king to uranium.
James, thanks for the introduction. Good to see you again. I just had a look at the diary and I see that the last time that I spoke to you was on the 7th of February. So exactly 5 months ago to the day, as if by magic. I
can't remember that far back.
Well, you know what? You've recently put out a technical interview on YouTube or on your website with Cameron McKay. And you talk about the early stage of your kind of thesis on the ACKIO deposit, and you use a map which dates back 5 months. So it just shows you kind of that your company has gone on a kind of quite a journey in the last 5 months, not just on the ground, but also in the share price, markets, and all of that. So let's unpack that a bit, and let's do that journey. Let's first of all start with the technical side of things. Let's talk about the project, what you understood 5 months ago when you had that first few drill holes, and I think it might have been one that really hit it and three that kind of had sniffs of alteration around it, and where you are now.
A lot has changed. See, that's the thing. It's really thrown us for a loop almost from day one. Having the sandstone where we were drilling back in February, and even with the discovery last year, gave us a lot of potential for exploring for unconforming mineralization, which is typically of higher grades than basement hosted deposits. And so we put a lot of focus on that. Not saying that we didn't come up short, but well, we need the assays to really help us out and vector in on the sandstone side of things. But through the drilling process, we learned that this is a structurally complex deposit. So we had to change our strategy and our thinking, and in doing so, we became much more effective with the drill holes, and we started hitting mineralization. One of the biggest takeaways is that we had always, well, it's a common thing to do. So when you follow fault zones in geology, they're typically going to follow the grain of the rock. So if your rocks are oriented like that, you can almost guarantee your structures are going to be like that or like that. There's slight variance to them. It's very rare that they cut across like that, but that's what we found, is that the main structure is like this. So when we were drilling in this direction, we were missing quite a bit. So as we change this way, now we start seeing more of the mineralization, the whole structure opens up. And also in doing so, we realize that the mineralization is removed from the sandstone. So if your sandstone is over here that we were originally looking for, mineralization is now over here. So it's really shifted a lot of focus on our end of things, but it's been fortuitous with every step on the way.
It must have been quite a thing for the geologists in the field to be mapping this and saying, well, hang on, we're trying to get to the sandstone. Your drill holes were obviously planning to intersect the sandstone, so they were located where they would go and penetrate the sandstone at depth, and you were coming across oblique mineralization or sniffs of mineralization in the core. It must have been quite a was there a kind of an aha, kind of a light bulb moment, or there seems to be some structure which is sub-parallel to our drill holes? Why don't we think about this differently? What was that conversation like internally? Who was it immediate? I immediately recognized this, or was it actually that we need to get you and the board together, or the technical team, and actually we really need to figure this out? How was that process?
That was really a lot of Cameron. That he started seeing that around hole 11, which was one of our big intercepts very early on. And yeah, he was looking at things in 3D and in section and couldn't really piece it all together, and just trying to put the mineralization and the structure following the grain of the rocks, or the preferential fabric of the rocks. It just didn't make sense. So we had talked plenty of times and just decided to, hey, let's, if that's what you're seeing in the geology, you think everything is going the opposite way, then let's drill it. So we did that, and yeah, it just proved to be successful. We were a little bit delayed on when we did start drilling it, simply because of the logistics involved with the way that we're operating. we've got some pretty robust helicopter pads, so all built out of timbers, and we usually plan 2 to 3 pads in advance. So it's a little bit of a pain in the butt when you got to go out there and start taking one down and try to get one ready for the next pad if you don't have the time available for it. So it did take us probably 2 weeks just to get to that point where we were able to finish the drill holes that we already had planned and then switch over.
Okay, so just if I'm coming new to the story, can remind me what you've done in the last 5 months in terms of logistics and kind of meters and drill holes. So how many holes have you put into ACKIO in total?
We have put in over 65 drill in total, yeah. Since discovery in September of 2021, we have put over 65 drill holes into ACKIO. We've drilled over 18,000 meters. And quite a number of those, over 50% of those have intersected mineralization.
Is your hit rate improving now that you've cracked the model round? Have you kind of understood, you're better able to chase structure and kind of give substance to your hypothesis or your working model?
Yeah, absolutely. So when we started drilling, we were drilling with the drills oriented to the west, and we had maybe a 1 in 3 intersection rate, which is pretty poor, to be honest. We switched over to drilling to the east, and now our intersection rate is above 50%.
Yeah.
All in. So yeah, we're about 2/3.
2 and 3. Yeah.
But we've also found new mineralization, shallower mineralization, as we have moved to the west as well. Actually, since we're on this topic, though, about
let's bring up some maps and some sections. I think it'll help a lot. Yeah,
okay, I can definitely do that. But since we're on the topic of the sandstone and everything else, so one of the things all of these Athabasca uranium deposits have in common is clay alteration, and we saw a lot of it around that sandstone area. That there was. That's where we saw the strongest clay alteration. That's why we really like that area. As we move towards the west, where we're seeing the shallower mineralization, we're not seeing as strong as clay alteration as we do to the east side of the deposits. And it's very curious. So we're still under the impression that there is more mineralization down there, more to the east as well, because just the structural nature of this. Some of the alteration I've seen, I can take it over to other deposits and say, hey, yeah, this is, this comes from Rough Rider. This comes from Millennium. It's just these really strong clay alteration zones, and the white clay that you see, which is typically reminiscent of basement hosted deposits. So again, ACKIO has got a lot of differences compared to other typical basement hosted deposits. Not a bad thing at all, but it's just something that I personally had never seen, and nor had Cameron really.
Okay, so we're looking at this in plan view.
Yep.
And in general, since we're drilling to the west, I presume that the rough dip of the sediments is to the east or to the northeast.
So the preferential dip of the rock type of the main fabric is to the northeast. The dip of the mineralization is to the west.
Yeah. No, I'm just starting with the basic geology. So the sediments, and you've got a bit of till cover, and it looks a bit swampy. Kind of it's classic shield stuff, isn't it?
Yeah. I wouldn't say it's too swampy. We've had no issues drilling in there. It's actually been pretty dry.
Okay. And how much cover have you got before you get into the sandstone?
About 25 to 30 meters
of till
overburden. Yeah.
Okay. And can you, with your mouse, show me kind of where the sandstones, where you can kind of map them, or you had a hunch that they were?
Yeah. So sandstone's right about this area.
Okay. And so you were drilling to the west to intersect those sandstones, and then you turned around and started intersecting them to the drilling them to the east. And looking at that, you've got three stacked layers of mineralization, kind of one on top of each other, with the deepest one being in the center there, by the looks of things.
Yes.
And when we spoke, was it ACKIO AK 22004 was the one that had hit?
Yes, that was well, holes 1, 3, and 4. Those were from last year. Those were part of the discovery drill holes.
Yep.
And 1, 3, and 4 are the ones that hit. 1 had the best results. That was 15.5 meters at about 0.13%. Hole 3 had probably the highest grades, 5.5 meters at 0.25%. And then hole 4 had the shallowest mineralization, starting at around 80, I think it was 90 meters, 80 to 90 meters true vertical depth.
Okay, and you had a little plan, I think, with that kind of corridor, and you were going to kind of drill out to the northwest and the southeast. So where did your holes go after that? 5 and 6 was a step out to the east.
Yep.
7 and 7, 8, and 9 were up the top there. 10,
11, 12.
Yeah.
13, 14, and we did hole 21. 15 and 16, 17 are all up here. 18, 19, and 20 we're back down in, I lost my mouse. Here we are, 18, 19, 20, and 21 is down here, 22, 23, 24. This was still us looking for that sandstone, as was 31, 32, 33.
Yeah.
So yeah, the mineralization is dipping to the west, but the plunge of the system is plunging to the northwest. So
northwest. Yeah. So shallow.
So we figured, exactly. Shallower to the southeast, and that's why we thought that the best potential for unconformity mineralization was down in this area.
And when did you do the switcheroo, and kind of what drill holes are actually the is that 34, 37, and 41 there I can see on the left there?
Yep, that's when we did the switcheroo.
Really interesting. Can you bring up the section, because it's so interesting to this kind of this approach that the geology that you've mapped. That's the one. Look at that. So the orange is the sandstone. You've got these quartz-rich metasediments, which are presumably, I'm just taking a wild guess here, conformable with the sandstone. Conformable with the sandstone.
Unconformable? No, they're there's no real relation. They're kind of separated by hundreds of millions of years.
Oh, okay. But if you were going to be looking for unconformity mineralization, would it be on that boundary, or the boundary between that and the granite? Oh, it's on that boundary.
It would be the orange and yellow boundary.
Okay, sorry. So that is the unconformity. That is the unconformity. Gotcha. And look at that mineralization way off to the west.
Yeah. I find it odd that your mineralization is shallower than your sandstone is. You know, assuming a plumbing system, and guaranteed that there would have been sandstone over where we see mineralization anyway. But I would have assumed that the plumbing system would have come down into the sandstone. But I think I have a reason why. And
sorry, the plumbing system come down into the sandstone, not up into it.
Well, yeah, that's if the plumbing's coming from the Athabasca for most of it and comes down, typical water lakes to go down into the lowest levels and then feed off. So the water still could be coming down into the sandstone. Let me get my mouse back. So the water could be coming down here and then percolating down these faults into this way. And then when these faults are reactivated, because they've percolated all the way down here, and that they follow the next easiest path to get up. But then also water would have percolated down there, because we're under the impression that sandstone cover would have been, or the unconformity over in this area would have been up here somewhere pre-erosion.
Yes, I get that. I can see that. That's a neatic interpretation, that a block of sandstone has got a corresponding deeper root to it with the mineralization. But what that doesn't explain is that drill hole, is it 64 or 65? That 1303 meters down on the western side.
63.
Okay. That's got lots of stacked lenses. Is that just kind of lots of listric faults, or is that some kind of
We've modeled those as actually antithetic faults. Okay. The orientation of these may not be true in that. the antithetic faults should be oriented, cross-cutting all of these listric faults.
Really, all of this, what this all tells you with the intensity of the clay alteration in the sandstone, is that you've got a big system here.
Yeah, that's the thing. It is huge. I used to think Rough Rider was the biggest clay alteration system that I've seen. This blows it out of the water. This is phenomenal. So some of the drill holes that we have drilled over here within the sandstone, hole 5 in particular, we basically drilled down here, we hit a wedge of basement, but then it's so clay altered all the way over in this area. So we're under the impression that, is there more faulting over here, kind of like a Horst situation, in that this is a block here, and then you're going to have a kind of mirror image listric fault system over on this side.
Yep.
That you could have mineralization. We haven't got full assays back yet, but we are getting partial results yet. And so one of the things that I've noticed in the sandstone geochemistry is that over here in this part of the sandstone, it's lighting up. The chemistry looks phenomenal for uranium mineralization in this area. Everywhere in the middle, it's really spotty and it's hard to piece together. But over here, this is the best sandstone minerals or sandstone geochemistry that we see. It blows away everything over here. And that's why we think there's still this unconformity potential, or at least mineralization further to the east. There's so much going on in this area. It's a beautiful system. It really is.
Is it possible that the system kind of ran hot and fast through the sandstone and kind of washed it out, and actually the mineralization you're seeing precipitated in the granite is kind of, that was just the optimum place for precipitation of that bit of metal, and that bit of sandstone that you're looking at is actually not the right bit of potential sandstone to host mineralization, but there may be some along strike or elsewhere. But could it be just, it was over flushed?
Yep, absolutely could be. Yeah, there's no way to say not. Yeah, it's a viable scenario.
But that doesn't mean that there's not a lot of metal kicking around. You've just got to find it.
Yep, exactly.
And then you put out a news release a couple of weeks ago. I think it was on the hole 65, which is that whatever it is, 50 degrees hole to 258 meters. Is that the one?
Hole 65, yeah, that was a big hit. Well, we finished up to hole 65, yes.
Yeah, and you've got the CPS count on that, and you've got some core loss. Can you just talk me through kind of that hole?
Oh, phenomenal drill hole. Composite wise, it's got a lot of mineralization to it. So composite being the summation of all of the mineralization that it goes through. So you can see here it goes through a number of different zones. The best zone obviously was up where we're seeing the shallowest and strongest mineralization, and it looks great. The core loss though is kind of problematic in that in this zone in particular, this upper zone, come back mouse.
Yeah, lost your mouse.
So the mineralization up in this area, we had about 20% core loss, and some of that was within the strongest downhole gamma probe data that we have. So I'm assuming that what we released via handheld CPS does not do that, what is down there, complete justice. Obviously there's some friable rock in here. There's some faulting, there's some heavy alteration. How are you going to deal with that going forward in your drill? How are you going to improve your drill recoveries? We've asked the drillers to slow down. Recovery is far more better than them getting their meterage. So that's definitely one of the ways. Everything was fine until just more recently. Just maybe we hit a very friable zone of mineralization, and that's, we can look at other methodologies if we think this is going to be problematic down the road. Something like split tubing, which would basically recover everything in that as much as possible. Are you already doing triple tubing? No. Okay. Just standard drilling. And is split tubing triple tubing, or is that something different? Yeah, no, it's the same thing. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that slows it down a bit and adds a bit more cost, but it might be
it's such key information, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Although you do get the gamma probe, so you do measure the wall rock as you go down.
Yep.
That in a way that smears a bit, because it measures about a meter cube as you go down. Yep. Something like that.
So there is a background effect to gamma probe. Yep. And so that's when we're seeing situations like this where we do have quite consecutive mineralization, we assume that there is more of a background effect than not. Like something that's discrete, you'll be able to, you'll see that nice and easy. You'll be able to pick that out quite readily. But if something's broad,
it's going to influence. Yeah. That's the joy and the art of doing uranium resource estimations. My goodness.
No kidding.
That's a kind of a rabbit hole of mathematics that I wouldn't want to go down.
Same here. No, I've been in this industry since 2006, and this is something that I've still never really delved into. Just haven't needed to. Assay turnaround times have been good in the past. We're still seeing shortages now, but just a game of patience.
When you think about an open pit resource and an open pit target, I think the Canadian market is kind of a little bit spoiled when they talk about percentage about the uranium resources or measured and indicated being in percentages, whereas lots of resources around the world are in ppms. They're not even in 0.2s of a ppm of a percent. They're in 0.02 or 0.04 because 1% is 10,000 ppm and 0.25% is 2,500 ppm, which is, that's, if you're in an open pit and you're digging it out of the ground, that's fine. That works. I'm not trying to get a kind of a grade of a resource or anything like that. But when you look at the broader intersections, do you start thinking, this is going to be, if we get more of this, it's going to add up and we're going to hopefully be able to target that 0.25% or 0.5%, or, is that what you're thinking? Or are you thinking 1%? Or, where's your order of magnitude head at the moment on this shallow resource?
Between 0.1 and 0.3. So I like to run around with the idea in my head of a 0.2%, just because I think that is, as you mentioned, 0.25% is great. That's something that moves forward. 0.2%, I think, is, again, it's something that should move forward given an open pit scenario, and it's better to err on the side of caution than to overestimate.
Yeah, and if you get some good pods or lenses, which are,
they just build up the tonnage so fast.
Yeah,
and all of these. So in that plan map that we showed, all of those zones, they all have what we will consider to be high grade mineralization, and we're basing that on the radioactivity that we've seen in the rocks. But there's no doubt about it. We're going to see some values that are over 1%, and they're going to be able to be linked up together and really hold some nice resources together. Good. So what's the plan now? Good question. It's a phenomenal question. This is we've had this internal discussion going on, and we're still making the decisions. But what do you do in this market? We've spent about $10 million. We've done a lot of great work. We've drilled. By the time we're done, we'd have drilled to over 20,000 meters. We've really defined a lot of strike length and width, and what I would consider to be great mineralization. So we've really done great justice to Baselode and our shareholders. But do we continue drilling? And I guess we spent $10 million to get to that point, and we've lost maybe 30 million in market cap. So there's not true, because when I spoke to you in February, your share price was 66 cents, and you're up whatever it is, you're up 13 cents at 79.80 cents. Yeah, pre-drilling basically, and then once we started having results, we did hit around $1.20, somewhere around there, and we've just been falling down ever since. But so from that point, from the fall side of things, we see it being basically market loss situation, and hasn't done. We've put out good news, and it has been received very well within the investment community. We've seen that. We've heard from investors. A lot of people really like what Baselode is doing, but we can't fight the tide. It's we're paddling upstream, and sometimes there's just a point to really just holding off. We're in a scenario where we don't have flow through commitments, so we don't need to make any additional expenditures required by the CRA, Canada Revenue Agency, to meet those flow through commitments. We're working on hard dollars right now, and nobody knows how long this whole economic macroscape is going to last. So it is a little bit more of a beneficial idea for us to just kind of wrap things up, hunker down, preserve the capital. Well, rocks aren't going anywhere. They're there to be drilled when the market does pick up again. And by preserving the capital that we still have, lets us go forward and do so without going back to the market.
How much more drilling have you got budgeted and planned in this existing phase?
Not much. We said we're going to drill 20,000 meters. We've hit that, and just we'll consider wrapping up. We'll see what the rest of the next 2 weeks really looks like, and we'll make a decision at that point. Do we, again, we're budgeted to continue drilling out to 30,000 meters, but is that going to create any more value for the company? I honestly don't think so. Not given the marketscape that it is right now. If this was even 2 years ago, I think that we would have been in a better situation, and that the news would have been the whole share price and just our market valuation would have been much more better received and just strengthy or have more strength behind it. But it's too much of a volatile situation right now. Nobody gets any love in this market.
Well, yeah, no, I certainly know about that. My goodness. Really interesting. What I saw in the bear market from 2011 to 2017 was that the only companies that really were able to cut through that downtrend were the ones that continued to grow their envelope and made spectacular discoveries. So there's some, it depends on the shareholder base, but there is an argument for saying, actually, we are on something really exciting. This is going to be a game-changing discovery for the Canadian uranium space. We are going to be the next mine in production. I mean, I'm just kind of riffing ideas, and we're going to drill. And you might have, with the technical understanding you've got now from 65 holes, you might have some. And am I right in thinking you're doing a geophysical survey at the moment? You've got an MT survey?
We've completed all of our geophysical surveys, yes. And that's something we have to digest.
Yeah.
So there is a benefit to putting the brakes on right now. Yeah. And that we can digest all of the information, get the assays back, use some of that information in corporation with the recently flown geophysical surveys that we've done, and just piece it all together and say, okay, this looks specific. This looks perspective, and just focus on that. Yeah,
no, I agree. I think you need to have a measured approach. I just do worry about exploration companies that don't explore.
I never said we're not going to explore. Next year's a whole different ballgame, and like I said, the rocks aren't going anywhere. We will remain fully funded. We'll go back out there and just keep hitting it hard.
Okay,
I think we did everything right this year. We were aggressive when we needed to be aggressive. We basically got to 20,000 meters and above by the time we're done. And there's really no other company out there in the Athabasca who has done that. So I think I think everything seemed to have happened right. So I'm very happy with that. I'm extremely happy with what we've done and what we've accomplished. I think our shareholders should be of the similar mindset.
When are the final assays, over what period are you going to get all of the final data from this drilling to come through?
Very tough question to answer. We still haven't got, what I'd like to do is put the assays out with the same drill holes that we put out the SINT results. So the first batch of assays that I would look to put out would be from holes 5 to hole 11. We've got partial results for some of the holes, but we don't have the full assays back yet for all of those drill holes to put out yet. So wow. we're looking at 4 months basically 4 months plus.
Okay.
So to get the rest of the assays, is it a 4-month turnaround time from when we stop drilling? So if we assume we stop drilling in July, end of July, then we're looking at August, September, October, November.
Okay.
So it's still news flow throughout the rest of the year.
Okay, I hear you. And then once you've got all your assay data, you can come up with, you'll have your geophysics reinterpreted, you'll have a reinterpreted geology, you'll have the full data set, and you'll be able to kind of come up with a year end. Here we are. This is the 2020, the fruits of 2022.
Yep, exactly.
Okay, good. And then you'll be able to take a plan for 2023, which will be contingent on support from your shareholder base, the broader markets, and what the integrated data review reveals.
Yep, exactly.
My goodness. Okay. Well,
there's a lot going on, and it's not just ACKIO either. We've got, so again, we've done things right. And even looking at our other projects, disregarding Shadow, because we're still in consultation for that, and that hasn't seen any move forward, but Shadow's still good for the next year. Catharsis and the rest of the Hook project and what we call Hook Southwest, all of those projects are in good standing for at least the next 2 years. So if the markets do continue and we need to put nothing but focus on to ACKIO, then we can ignore the other projects for the next 2 years, and we're solid state.
Yeah, that's good. But ACKIO feels very much like the front runner and the way forward.
Yeah,
good. Well, James, thank you very much for that. I feel much better informed now than I did at the start of this call, which is always the purpose. Hopefully, that will translate through to the benefit of the viewers, the wider viewers as well. And I look forward to chatting to you. I mean, I spoke to you, what was it, 4 months ago, 5 months ago. Maybe in 5 months' time, we'll have assays in geophysics, and it'll be a good time to catch up again then.
Yeah, nice year-end wrap-up would be great.
Yeah, good. Thank you very much for your time. Nice talking to you.
Likewise, Merlin. Take care.
Cheers.